As always, we're going to start by creating a record set. We'll stick with the name that we've been working with this whole time, which is www. But we're going to do something a little different this time. In this case, we're not going to select an alias. Instead, we're going to populate the value with the IP address of Web1 East, which I have conveniently on my clipboard. For the TTL, we're going to go ahead and leave that at 5 minutes or 300 seconds. And for the routing policy, we will select multi-value answer. Now here, under the set ID, we're just going to go ahead and call this Web1-East. This makes it easy to identify what the target is. And then for associate with health check, we want to select yes, Web1 East. Now notice that it gives us a little warning symbol here. What is this about? We recommend you specify a TTL of 60 seconds or less. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to purposely ignore that for now. We'll deal with that in just a moment. But for now, let's go ahead and create this record. And then let's create another one. www. We'll go ahead and pop in the IP address of Web2 East, multi-value answer, and I'm going to name the set Web2-East, and we of course will associate this with the health check for Web2 East. Create another record set, www, and I'm going to run through this rather quickly so you don't have to just sit there and watch me type Web1 West and associate with the health check for Web1 West and then create the record. Okay, now for this last record, I'm going to do something a little bit differently. Create record set. Of course, we're going to stick with the same name, www. I'm going to paste in the IP address of Web2 West. I'm also going to select multi-value answer. I'm going to set the set ID to Web2 West, and I'm also going to associate this with the Web2 West health check. So what am I going to do differently here? Well, let's go take a look at the TTL here. Recall that in the first 3 records, we set the TTL to 300 seconds or 5 minutes, and Route 53 complained about that. It let us do it, but it warned us that we probably should choose a TTL of 60 seconds. So let's heed that little warning and change this one to 60. Now what's going to happen here is that once I create this record, Route 53 is going to lower the TTL of the other records to match. It'll take the TTL of the last record you create and it will change the value of the other records in the set. Let's go ahead and click create. Now let's go ahead, locate these records, and let's look for the TTL header here. All right, there it is. So those records at the very bottom. There we go. Notice that they're all 60 because that last record we created had a TTL of 60. So even though on the first 3 we had a TTL of 300 seconds, on that very last one we set it to 60, which is what Route 53 recommends, and it thus changed all the other ones to 60 seconds. Very convenient, very thoughtful. Now remember that I said the difference between a simple resource record and a multi-value answer record is that you cannot set health checks on simple resource records. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let me show you. Let's create another record set. I'm going to go ahead and name this one Simple. And here I'm going to do something I have not done in this course. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in all of the IP addresses of all of our web instances, each one on a different line. This is perfectly valid. In fact, this is a normal way to do it. However, notice that we get no option to set a health check. It's just not there. Let's go ahead and save this. And then once we save it, let's jump over to PowerShell. Let's start by querying for the multi-value answer record. We'll do ns lookup www.BenPiper.host and the Route 53 name server. Notice that we get 4 responses which appear to be in random order. Now this is different than the other record types where Route 53 returns only 1 address. Let's go ahead and run this one again. This time we get the same addresses but in a different order. And yes, this order is random, or at least pseudo-random. Now let's compare this to the simple record set we just created. We'll go ahead and query for simple. And here's our list of IP addresses. Let's go ahead and run this again. and we get the same IP addresses, but again, this also seems to be in a random order. So again, the difference here between simple resource records and multi-value answered records is the health check. So let's see what happens when we shut down Web 1 East. Let's jump over to an SSH session with Web 1 East. All right, I've got Web 1 East up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do Control-C to break out of the Docker container. And once this goes down, we'll wait about a minute to let the health check fail. Just for a change of pace, I've come back over here to the health checks dashboard so that we can see that Web 1 East has in fact failed its check, and it is very sick. It's unhealthy. All right, let's go ahead and run those queries again. We're going to go ahead and start by running the query against www. And notice we get only 3 IP addresses now. What's missing? The IP address of Web 1 East because it failed its health check. Now let's contrast this with the simple resource record. We still get all 4 records, even though Web 1 East, whose IP address is the one ending in 8855, is down. By this point, you probably know what question I'm going to ask next. What happens if all of the web servers go down? Yes, that's right. Route 53 will treat them all as healthy, and it will respond with all of the records. You've seen this behavior before earlier in the course, so I'm not going to demonstrate it here. It's pretty consistent across the board, but feel free to try it out for yourself.